Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining. So today we're welcoming back Antaranga Prabhu. Thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much again for inviting me and being part of this wonderful Sangha. Please accept my humble obeisances. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo namo namaha Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for allowing me to share some points and things about Srimad Bhagavatam. So without further ado, as per usual, I'll be very happy if we kind of have a more like a discussion-based sort of a presentation. I'm going to share just a few points from the screen and see what comes out. So when I got invited for the class, then when I saw this chapter, I was actually, no, the process of creation. See, these sort of there are sections of Srimad Bhagavatam which are very, very technical, which are like how the universe came to be, all the expansions of the Mahatattva on all the individual elements and the process of creation. So it was kind of I was hesitating, but then I went into deeper, and I actually opened the chapter, not just read the title of the chapter, and came to into very wonderful surprise that this chapter is actually very, very beautiful. It's rather philosophical than technical as per certain possible points as the chapter is kind of suggesting. But without further ado, I suggest we kind of go forward with this chapter, so we leave some nice space for Q&A. So let's start from the text number 1. We can see how Sutta Goswami opens up. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, after hearing this speeches of Shukadeva Goswami, which were all about the truth of the self, applied his concentration faithfully upon Krishna. So just to kind of create a presentation, at this point, this is the narration, or this is the presentation of Sutta Goswami, who's actually narrating the intricate relationship between Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami. So in this particular chapter, we will see actually the wonderful, beautiful culture, the Vaishnava etiquette between the spiritual master and someone who is the receiver, on the receiving end, on the disciple of this transcendental knowledge. We will hear about very wonderful section where Shukadeva Goswami is actually glorifying his predecessors, glorifying Krishna, glorifying the process, glorifying varieties of different attributes and factors within the path of bhakti. Then Shukadeva Goswami in itself glorifies the impact of devotional service, which I think is very, very important for us to kind of understand and appreciate. So here we can see in the texts 3 and 4, it is said, "O great sages, the great Maharaj Parikshit constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, knowing well of his imminent death, renounced also fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and thus fix himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna, and ask all these questions." So here, Maharaj Parikshit is presenting the perfect, most important questions, or the principal questions, which the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is actually surrounded, or what is the Srimad Bhagavatam as a natural explanation to all these points which Parikshit Maharaj is actually mentioning. So within this section, we can actually see and we can actually understand what are the underlying questions which Srimad Bhagavatam is actually facilitating. In a very simplistic way, we can say that Srimad Bhagavatam describes 3 things, or 3 points, or 3 topics. First, bhakta. Bhakta means that there's a person who performs the particular activity, and the person who instigates and who starts the relationship. Then there's the process, the bhakti, right? So it's interesting, Baladev Vidyabhushan, in one of his commentaries to Gita Bhushana, he's giving very, very interesting comment. He says, what is Gyan, right? Gyan, what is, in general terms, we say, well, Gyan means knowledge, right? That's how the Acharyas, that's how Prabhupada presents this. But Baladevidya Bhushan gave a very, very interesting concept. He said, Gyan means that by which something is to be known. That by which something is to be known. So it's interesting when you read Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada translates different concepts as bhakti, right? Prabhupada translates buddhi, which means intelligence, as bhakti. Prabhupada translates almost like Ashtanga Yoga as bhakti. Prabhupada translates karma as bhakti. And the reason behind this is that the Acharyas, when they give a commentary or when they're describing the different varieties of literatures, they have two ways of describing it. The path number one is as it is, word by word translation. And so this concept is very interesting. But our path, the path of devotees, is with understanding of the conclusion. So conclusion means, Krishna says, Vedascha sarvam aham eva vedya, Vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. I am the conclusions of all knowledge and wisdom. Therefore, every single path can be one way or another dovetailed to Krishna consciousness. So the point which I was making, that Gyan means that by which something is to be known, which directly leads us back to what bhakti is. Bhakti is ultimately a path leads to Bhagavan. So the three concepts of Srimad Bhagavatam are Bhakta, Bhakti, and Bhagavan. The practitioner, the path, and the goal. So within Srimad Bhagavatam, there are these three concepts constantly glorified and constantly put more on the surface, on the forefront. If you look at the Vedas from a much more broader perspective, the Vedas in 90%, 95%, they describe karma kanda. They describe what kind of activities one should perform to elevate his consciousness, to be more wealthy, to be more healthy, to be more wise, to be more like this or like that, but still within the spectrum of the material world, the playground. That Srimad Bhagavatam actually completely breaks this status quo. That's why here it says, here is translated, well, all of these imminent death renounce all sorts of fruitive activities, namely religion, economic development, and sense gratification. So kama, artha, and even moksha, we can say, is kind of a rejected. Moksha in a sense of impersonal liberation. So we continue. Here, Maharaj Parikshit, interesting thing. Let's create a picture. Let's create a mental picture, right? Maharaj Parikshit, received the curse of Shringi, and he kind of put all the administration behind and went to Ganges. And that river, all the great sages inspired from the Paramatma start assembling. Imagine this. Imagine the picture. Great king, all the opulence is gone. It's some just loincloth sitting on the banks of a great river. And suddenly all these great sages, they start appearing. Some of them are coming from Ganga. Some of them are coming from, Ganges. Some of them are just like teleporting. Some of them are just like coming from different places. And here comes this very young boy, Shukadeva Goswami. So Shukadeva Goswami, just to give you perspective, is 17 years old. And there are sages there present, which are much, much more older than him. I mean, his father is there, Vyasadeva. Brahma is there, Yamaraj is there. All these great Vedic personalities, all these great Mahajans are present. Yet here it is, Shukadeva Goswami, a boy of 17 years old. He is here. And what is the relationship? Maharaj Parikshit, this is the one attribute of a disciple. He can actually recognize and understand this is a bona fide person. Why? Because he's got lakshanas. So this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, where basically from verse number 5, where Parikshit Maharaj starts speaking, up to the verse 10, Maharaj Parikshit is glorifying and trying to induce and create a scenario and a platform and an environment which induces Parikshit Maharaj to reveal all the truths and all the philosophical conclusions for the benefit of everyone assembled and everyone in the age of Kali, right? So this is very interesting. So one of the part of this initial section, what we can take out is how we should approach devotees and how we as inquiring disciples or devotees create a situation which is conducive for spiritual Q&A, right? So when you're sitting in a Bhagavatam class, when you're sitting in a Chaitanya Charitamrita class or any class, and if you're arrogant, rude, offensive, you're straight away presenting qualities and attributes which are not conducive for you receiving this very intimate wisdom and knowledge. Therefore, this is the environment presented by Parikshit Maharaj. And he presented like this, Shukadev Goswami, please speak, right? In a big dose of humility, he said, kindly clear up all these doubtful inquiries, because you are not only vastly learned in Vedic literatures and self-realizing transcendent, and this is the interesting point. Devotees, they practice, they have the philosophical understanding, right? But again, what's the use of dry philosophy? What's the use of bookworm knowledge? What's the use of you having all this wisdom, but don't know how to apply it? Basically, there's achar, but there's no prachar. So, but then Parikshit Maharaj says, but you are also great devotee of the Lord and are therefore as good as personality of Godhead. So Parikshit Maharaj already had something. He had definitely a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. So therefore, he understood, Shukadev Goswami, you have a lot of wisdom. You are very vastly learned, but not only that, you are a great devotee. So he glorified the wisdom and the understanding and the knowledge Shukadev Goswami possesses, but same time, you apply it, right? So what does this teach us? He's teaching us that it's nice to have a Bhagavatam Katha. It's nice to discuss Bhagavad Gita. But the real question is, what are we going to do? What are you going to do with all this wisdom? What are you going to do with all of this possession, this how do you say, this software, right? So the answer is application. Here from the text 11 onwards, Sutta Goswami, in this particular, just one verse, Sutta Goswami says, when Shukadev Goswami was thus requested by the king to describe the creative energy of the personality of Godhead, he then systematically remembered the master of the senses, Sri Krishna, and to reply properly, he spoke thus. So basically, from verse 12, this is the interesting thing. Parikshit Maharaj was glorifying Shukadev Goswami, but here Shukadev Goswami received the glorification, right? And what did he did? What was the next process of receiving a glorification? Offering glorification. And here we go. I again offer my respectful obeisances unto the form of complete existence and transcendence, who is the liberator of the pious devotees from all distress and the destroyer of the further advances in atheistic temperament and so on. So basically, when someone comes to you and says, you are a great Vaishnava, you are an amazing cook, you are a great parent, you are a wonderful friend, right? Devotees usually in humility say, oh, no, Prabhuji, I'm nothing. No, I don't know anything. What do I know? Something like that, right? But one thing you can do, one thing you can say, you can become detached from the abilities that you received by the mercy of others. I'll repeat that. You can become detached from the abilities and blessings you receive from other Vaishnavas, right? So someone says, you're a great cook. You know what will be the reply? I got it from my mom. I got the recipe for that dokla from my mom. You think the dal is very nice? Well, it's been in my generation, in my family lineage for, I don't know, 200 years. So you can appreciate other people's appreciation, but what you do, you pass it on. And this is what happens. You become light. You receive the glorification, and what you do, just like another piece of chain, you become connected and you pass on the wisdom and the glorification to others of parampara. So what did Shukadev Goswami did? He received all this glorification for Parikshit Maharaj, and he started glorifying his predecessors. He started glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna says, I'm the ability in man. So we can ask ourselves, If there's something good, why do you think it's us? Right? Krishna said, I'm the ability in man. That's it, clear. So when you're a nice singer and someone asks, who's a good singer? Put your hand up. Put your hand up and say, I can sing and I will sing. And I'll sing from top of my lungs. You know why? Because Krishna gave me this voice and I'm going to utilize it nicely. Right? So this is beauty of Krishna consciousness. The other day, I made a book distribution, this Jehovah Witness. His name is John. This was in Bournemouth. Nice gentleman, kind of a mid-50s, maybe late 50s. Very sweet guy, very sweet person. And I kind of presented my journey and said, oh, I'm a monk, I'm a brahmachari. And he was like, oh my goodness, so what are you doing here on the streets? It's getting summer, it's getting more and more warmer, you know? It might be difficult, you know, because obviously when you're on the streets and the modern sort of a style of presentation, both for males and females, is very daring and presenting. And he said, you should be in a temple, be, you know, like stay protected. And then I remembered one interesting concept which Prabhupada said. So it's kind of a similar situation. Prabhupada and all his like ocean of sannyasis, right, been sitting in an airport. And Prabhupada saw there was a woman walking behind Prabhupada. And somehow he saw the glimpse of all these great sannyasis looking at this woman. And when Prabhupada looked at the sannyasis, all of them went head down, ashamed. And Prabhupada said, if she's beautiful, imagine how Krishna must be beautiful. So I found that's very far out meditation. It's the same situation. It's the same concept. Whatever you may be in, oh, he's an amazing singer. He's an amazing singer. Imagine how Krishna must be an amazing singer. Or, you know, he can cook amazing. Imagine how Radharani must be a great cook. So straight away, all the envy, all the misconceptions, all the lust, all the greed, all this illusion of material will disappear. And not only disappears, it becomes purified in connection with Krishna. So next time when someone says you're amazing, you say, you know what? Imagine how Krishna must be amazing. Because all the ability I possess comes from him. So this is the key to Krishna consciousness. This is the key. In the verse 262 in the Bhagavad Gita, the initial thing is contemplation. So this whole section where Shukadeva Goswami is glorifying the Supreme Lord, his contemplation is on the Lord. He understands his limitations. He understands his wisdom. He understands the blessings he received from his father and from Vyasadeva. He understands, but more than anything, he understands that I am always supposed to be connected with Krishna. And that's why initially it is said, let me see. So here it says, let me offer my respectful obeisances. Again and again, all these verses are connected. Let me offer my respectful obeisances. Let me offer my respectful obeisances. Let me offer all that I possess in respect to the Creator, to the Supreme Source. And then there comes this really amazing verse, which is absolutely phenomenal. In the text 18, it is said, Kirata, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumbha, Yavana, members of the Kasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Due to his being the supreme power, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So what is he saying? This is the age when two ages are colliding, where two ages are kind of changing. There's an exchange of yugas. And he said, even those which are kiratas, unas, andhras, pulindas. And then when you open this verse, Prabhupada is very interesting, saying that all of these are considered low-class nations, low-class races, low-class people which don't have Aryan consciousness, right? So the reason why this is actually presented, and this is quite, I wouldn't even say controversial, it's just interesting to comprehend this concept. Back in those days, in the ages of Dvapara, Treta, and Satya Yuga, Any one of you have a dog? No, none of you have a dog? In my home, we have a dog. My parents, they have something called, I believe, Hungarian Vizsla. And before we had a Great Dane, right? Great Dane is massive dogs. They weighed around 85 kilograms. Massive, massive kind of a creature, like a little pet cow, you know? And to get a correct breed of a dog, you need to breed it with the same type of dog. And I'm sorry for the analogy, but it's basically called like a process when you connect two same breeds, you receive, there's a certain high percentage, or 95 to 100% that you will receive a pure breed. So basically, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, it says that Varna Shankara, in correct translation, in a word-by-word translation, and one of the translation means mixed varnas, or mixed personalities with mixed consciousness. If let's say there's a Brahmana woman and a Shudra father or a Shudra man, and if they have a union and the progeny comes out of it, this is called Varna Shankara. It's not within the limit of their consciousness. So what I'm trying to say is that even personalities or races coming from a mixed consciousnness, they are able to be purified. Like, for instance, I've done a bit of just research or observation or reading the purport, and Hunas are actually that which my country comes from, or my sort of my genealogical tree comes from Hunas. These are basically Eastern Hungarian, or where is it actually? Prabhupada writes it down. So Hunas, the area of East Germany and part of Russia is known as province of Hunas. Accordingly, sometimes kind of hill tribe known as Hunas. So geographically speaking, low class. But the interesting thing about the age of Kali is that you can become elevated by consciousness, by association, by shelter, by shraddha, by developing faith in the process. And that just shows how powerful is the process. So in the age of Kali, you have the diamond of Chaitanya Vaishnavism in the black background. And this black background of Kali Yuga make the diamond shine even more, right? I mean, if you look, when Prabhupada went to West, he changed all the hearts of these, mlechas, low-class people in Krishna conscious. And now we call them gurus and, senior Vaishnavas. And you will never, ever even consider their background, where they're from. Why? Because they transcended the material so-called limitations by the purity of a devotee. So that's this whole concept of this chapter, how the connection, the culture, that transition is presented. Parikshit Maharaj actually is so humble that he presents himself, I'm just a Kshatriya. I'm just a part of a governing class. What do I know? But you are pure, elevated beyond the Brahmana. You're a Paramahamsa. Please consider to teach me. So that just shows the purity of the process if it's upheld in that purity and presented by a pure devotee. So continuing, here Shukadev Goswami just continues glorifying the Lord. Let me find this. So here, this Shukadev Goswami presents still the concept of glorification of the Lord. So let me present you one interesting concept. So the similarities, what is happening here is the same section where Brahma was glorifying the Supreme Lord. When Brahma is about to start the great epic of creation, of creating physical and subtle bodies to match the desires of the living entities, what he started and how he started with glorifying and taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Brahma is Aja, or unborn, his direct guru is Krishna himself. So he starts with glorification of his spiritual master. Why? Because he's about to present something great, something very complex. He's about to create something very unique. So same thing here, Shukadev Goswami is basically Just like when you want to shoot an arrow, you have to pull it back. So this activity of pulling back is Shukadev Goswami humbly admitting his limitations, his understanding, and glorifying the Supreme Lord, just so he may be used as a via media to present Srimad Bhagavatam. And then in verse 24, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudev, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. Here he glorifies his own father, who's sitting right in front of him in the crowd of sages. There he is. His father is right sitting there. And Hare Krishna. Shukadev Goswami is glorifying his father. And then, my dear king, Brahma, the first, on being questioned by Narada, exactly apprised him on this subject as it had been directly spoken by the Lord to his own son, who was impregnated with Vedic knowledge from his very birth. So this whole section, and phew, is not about creation. So it's the process of creation basically means the process of preparation for presentation. Just like Brahma, first process of creation starts with acknowledging, admitting who you are. What's your position? Second of all, glorifying the Supreme Lord. Then presenting what you're trying to do, right? I'm trying to create, I'm trying to present Srimad Bhagavatam. Kindly give me the empowerment. So process of creation starts with admitting of who you are, where you are, and glorifying your predecessors. So this is beautiful cultural way of how to start any activity, right? You want to go for a shopping? Glorify the Lord. You want to start building a house? You glorify the Lord. You want to get, I don't know, good grades? Glorify the Lord. You want to get initiated? Glorify the Lord. Because what happens within the act of glorification, you become purified and the link becomes established. So yeah, there's much, much more to say. This chapter is absolutely like far out in terms of Prabhupada purports and his commentaries. There are a lot of points which I haven't mentioned, which I don't think I have the capacity to mention. But if devotees have any points, any questions, anything they wish to say, please, we can take some, we can open up to a discussion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. If anyone wants to start the discussion, what I'll start off with, first of all, if you'd raise your hands, by the way, and then I'll call yourselves out. But I'll start off. You mentioned the Aryan consciousness, and when people think about the word Aryan, they always refer it back to the Nazi Germany, effectively. So, and obviously there was this swastika being used, which is very similar to the Hinduism, you know. So it was said that Germany was taking some sort of they were taking some sort of spiritual knowledge from India, and so was that Aryan race part of that whole concept? I was just wondering, you know, because they were using the similar sort of words and so forth.
It's kind of a more like historical question, which I don't have that much information about. But all I can say is that this concept, which was presented by the Nazi Germany, was misconstrued, misunderstood, because to be an Aryan, it's not an activity of birth, right? It's not that you have to have blue eyes and, you know, blonde hair and be like this, like this, like this. You have to have certain physical proportions. But to be an Aryan means that you have a certain type of consciousness. Nowhere in the Vedas says who are the Aryans. The Aryans are a class of people which understand and can discriminate that they're not the body, they're a soul, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is real Aryan consciousness. So Aryan consciousness is not physical or sort of a physical attributes, but rather is a metaphysical understanding of the reality. So anyone can be an Aryan, doesn't matter which race or color of skin you have, because yeah, it's It's something which happens in the deeds, basically in activities and qualities. And when it comes to the swastika, or basically the sign, I believe it's a sign of the Surya or the sun. I don't know any exact details or give more than that. But again, ideology taken and misconstrued just to facilitate the mental abuse of a particular nation. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Minamataji, you got your hand up. Would you like to unmute and ask your question? And if anyone else wishes to ask questions, could you please put your hand up?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It said Vyasadeva was an incarnation of Vasudeva. Is that the case? Is Vasudeva Lord Krishna's father?
Very good question. You see, there's a bit of a technicality to this, and that is, you see, when you look at the verse, it said incarnation of Vasudeva. You see that small thing on top? So Vasudeva with the long A, it's Krishna, or basically his expansion, and Vasudeva without that mark on top of A, it's Vasudeva, like the father of Krishna. I can't hear you properly. I don't know if there's some. Meena, do you have any points?
Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, slightly better, yes, thank you. So yeah, that's the difference. And it is said that, I think this is in Laghu Bhagavatamrita by Rupa Goswami, there are some points where 26 Vyasadevs, which come every Kali Yuga, or in which are those which compile the Vedas, they are Jiva Tattva, or basically souls, living souls, which are empowered by the Lord to actually compile the Vedic scripture. But every 27 is actually Krishna himself. This particular age of Kali, we have all the compilations of these spiritual scriptures by Krishna himself. Like that Vyasadeva, which appeared now, it's Krishna. It's directly the Supreme Lord.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the question.
Okay. Anyone else? I can't see any hands, or if you just want to simply unmute and ask your question. They're a very conscious class here. Okay, we've got one. Hey, Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you give some tips of like book distribution?
Tips of book distribution.
How to approach and what should we like, go
Tips of book distribution. Very good. That's a nice question. That's a direct practical question, right? We read about Bhagavatam. We read about guru-disciple relationship. And let's discuss about book distribution. One tip I can give, and I think this is not the tip. This is I would say, overriding principle, which all the tips will descend from, and that is, people are not buying you, or people are not buying the book. People are not buying the Bhagavad Gita. People are not interested in Chant and Be Happy or Signs of Self-Realization. People are interested in you, because you're the result of the product. You are actually the result of Bhagavatam. All of you today here, all the devotees around the world, they are the manifestation of the philosophy. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not only something which is to be read, but something which is to be applied. It's something which changes the heart, which melts the heart of a practitioner. And when people are distributing books, naturally they're interested in you because you are the result. So if you are morose, unhappy, unsatisfied, and grumpy and rude and this and that, then I'll be like, bro, I don't want that. I'm not interested in what creates your face. I'm not interested in the book, which in the end of the day, I'm going to look like you, bro. No, just thank you so much. Have a lovely day. But if you're happy, if you're relaxed, if you're friendly, if you know your stuff, and even if you composed amongst like bad situation, then people want that. People want to be happy, right? So look, next time when you're watching an advertisement or a telly or something, check one very interesting thing. Whenever you have advertisements where people are there, observe one thing. Whenever they sell something, people are always smiling, right? People are always laughing. People are just like full of happiness, right? Just to pitch the product. If anyone is into marketing, I'm giving you marketing advices right here. So you are actually not buying the product, you're buying the happiness which the product facilitates, right? Think about it. Think
Yes.
about it deeply, right? Next time when you watch, I don't know, a commercial or advertisement for toothpaste or, I don't know, some products, check out how people are acting on that commercial or on the advertisement. They're not like grumpy and sad. They're all like buzzing. They're so happy. They're smiling. There's a happy family. There's a, this and that is happening. Why? Because they want to pitch you the happiness that seemingly that product facilitates. So when you're a book distributor, you have to be 10 times more enthusiastic, happy, bubbly, relaxed, chilled, and it needs to ooze from you. People need to be attracted to that aura of happiness. And then when they come, they will be literally like, bro, what do you have? Who's your dealer? Where'd you get your stuff from? Right? I say, I'll show you what I have. And people take those books. So the main principle is be happy, right? And all the tips, all the tricks, all the lines, the things will come. By you being happy, you'll naturally attract so many people. That's Sankirtan. Hare Krishna. Question.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, thank you, Rose.
Hare Krishna. So there are some hands up here.
If we can have, this is a roll now. I'm quite glad they're putting their hands up. If we can have Anita Mataji next, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Nice to have you on board. I think
Hare
you must be the QVC director of that TV channel where they sell things and they're all happy. I just wanted to ask you a question while we've got your attention, and we're very lucky to have you here. It's a bit, I'm going to go off tangent a little bit, but it's a little bit about your course, the Bhakti Life course I think you're doing. And I think I've got your attention, so I'd just really like to know a little bit more about it. I know it's off tangent from the class, but while you're here, I thought it's a good opportunity. I've not had a chance to catch up with you, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. It's basically like a semi-step next continuation course. As people have like initial course, let's say Gita Life, which is introductory, right? What is Bhagavad Gita? What are the principles? What are the philosophical points there? And more like theoretical explanation to the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad which is the course which I'm start teaching this Sunday onwards for, I believe, 6 weeks. It's more like hands-on course in the sense that it takes the concepts of the Bhagavad Gita, or in general, the Hare Krishna movement philosophy as presented by Srila Prabhupada, and puts it in practical way for you. Like, what does this mean to you? How can this adjust your life? What is there for me to understand? How can I apply these things into my life? So basically what Bhakti Life does, it takes the theoretical and brings it to the level of practical and implement something, how you can implement it, right? What does it mean to offer arati? What is the reasons of having water in my home? How do I offer food? What is the role of a spiritual master? What is the role of culture? What is the role of this and this and this? How can I raise up my children? I'm not very good with kids. Don't ask me for tips about how to deal with kids because I don't know anything. But one thing I know, how you can like apply your consciousness to present it somehow attractively. That's one of the things which we're going to be discussing. So from the realm of theory to the realm of practice. That's Bhakti Life.
Prabhu, but Prabhu, I'm Gujarati. I already have a temple.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I guess my direct question to you is, I'm Indian, I'm Gujarati, I've got a temple. Do I have to like convert it all now to KC? Because I don't know why I should do that.
You know what? Let's make it differently. Rather than conversion, let's use the words understanding. Let's just understand it deeper. Don't get it in such a way that we're asking people to convert or do things differently. Rather, what we offer is the reason why or what we do. Right? My spiritual master, His Holiness Kadambakananda Swami Maharaj, he always used to say, you need to have 100 reasons why you're doing things in your life. Otherwise, you'll be sentiment. Right? So why you have an altar in your home? And then when you give me an answer, I'll ask you again, why you have an altar in your home? And then when you give me another answer, I'll ask you again 10 times, but why you have an altar in your home? And when we come to the point that you say, I don't know, that's the point where we're going to start and facilitate the other reasons why, just so we have a better understanding. So it's not about you changing something, but you rather, I dare to say, like, you have more reasons why we're doing that.
So the physical drill is more important then, as well as the drill of the heart. The physical drill, isn't it? Having an altar, your house is a physical drill.
The most important thing is the consciousness behind it. You can be worshiping a written name Krishna on the sand, you know, so but you have to have the reasons why or how or what's the meaning behind this. So you'll be, yeah, as I said, from theoretical to practical. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. You didn't smile in that one, by the way. I was expecting you to smile.
Oh, sorry. I haven't smiled.
So anyway, if anyone wants to join that course, it's on the School of Bhakti website if you'd like to do that, okay? Because I'm trying to sell it for you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Is it online, by the way, as well?
I believe it's on site because it has many practical features to it, which really requires hands-on. So it's an on-site course.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Kapil Prabhu, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
My question is the fundamental question that Sukadev Goswami was asked by Parikshit Maharaj, that about the creation, annihilation, and maintenance of the universe. And also because he also referred the earlier conversation of Narad Muniji and Brahmaji. Mm-hmm. So this and it is I can relate to it because even small children ask questions like, you know, how does all of this start and what keeps it going? Because that now how we are able to answer it is quite difficult because the time that we have to talk about is much more than what we can comprehend. Mm-hmm. So in cases of that, how do we say, for example, if we have to explain to a novice person about these conversations, how do we relate to it and how do we make it easier conversation? For example, I mean, in practical case, when my child asks questions like these, how do we make it easier for them to understand these, you know, because there are a lot of time warps there where we go from one era to another. And also sometimes there are difficult concepts to understand that this conversation has happened and it is the similar carry on handover from one era to another. So just wanted to have some clarity on that. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Albert Einstein, he once said that if you cannot explain a very difficult topic in a very simple way, you don't really understand that. So what it means for us means for you, for us, we can learn and study more about that topic, which means start with Srila Prabhupada's books. If that is not fully satisfying to you, then absorb yourself more in the teachings of the Acharyas or predecessors of Srila Prabhupada, or different Puranas or different Agamas in the Vedas, which actually explain this topic in a much more detailed way. And it's when it comes to creation, that's one of the most, I would say, challenging, controversial, visual themes and topics which are difficult to digest for general populace. TOVP is being built, right? The Vedic planetarium in Mayapur, which Prabhupada actually wanted for this particular reason, that people from all around the globe will go to Mayapur and see how the Vedic cosmology actually functions. They can see it. They can see the whole concept right in front of them, and there'll be qualified people which can present it in such a way that we can understand it, we can relate to it, we can digest it. So when it comes to your children, there are many actually very interesting drawing books and kids books here in the Mana, which are explaining the topic of creation in such a simplistic way that you can digest it, you can understand it to a certain degree. Yeah, that's what I say. Unless you have some really like Brahmana in your home, like a little child which wants to read Sanskrit and recite the creation or know it from the heart, then just simplify it to the max, and then wait when the time comes that your child itself can actually study Srimad Bhagavatam and understand it on its own. To be fully honest, I know also the practical part or the point by point part of creation, but if you ask me for deeper details, I'll be struggling, and I myself will have to refer to varieties of other books. So I'm not also very conversant in the matter of creation. I know one of our brahmacharis here in the Mana is actually creating the cosmos, in the sense that he's creating the whole, Bhumandala, the Meru, the four elephants on the four corners of the universe, the different planetary constellations, the Dhruva Loka, the polar star, and how all the other, celestial beings or celestial planets are kind of rotating around that one. So it's a very complex concept, but yeah, that's all I can say. Sorry. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Was that okay for you, Kapil Prabhu?
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
There was one video recently forwarded to me, and it was shown as, even NASA had, given the concept of that how these different constellations are, arranged, and these are as per that, configuration that we have in our Bhakti books. So if possible, I'll share that when I get a chance. Thank
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Emma Mataji, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. How are
Hare
you? I was going to ask, do you know a bit more about King Andak, who is in text 20 of that chapter? I've heard stories about him, but I don't know how far your knowledge about him goes.
Would you like to tell us particular reason why specifically this?
I've heard good and bad things, and I just wanted to know if he was protected by Krishna. Why so? What was so special about him?
You took me off guard, to be honest.
Oh.
I don't know this particular king. King Andhak. Protecting glory of all the kings like Andhak. No, I can't say really I've done any extensive or any kind of a close research on this particular king.
Okay.
I can't really tell, but if you want me to, then I can do some research. I can see if I can find something which could be possibly satisfying.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because I think he's tied in with the story of Tulsi or Vrinda Mata. So that's where I was kind of going with that. I just wanted to see how he's related in that story, basically.
Please forgive me. I don't have the knowledge. I'll be lying, and I don't like to say misconstrued.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay. We can hopefully follow that up with yourself, Prabhu, if that's okay, at some point. But But with all these planetary systems, basically, are all the yugas aligned, or do they form at different stages? In terms of, will there be Kali Yuga in every single galaxy when Kali Yuga is in place, or will Kali Yuga be in, let's say, this material world and something else will be somewhere else, if you know what I mean?
Okay. So just like we have 4 seasons in the year, there are certain areas on the planet which these seasons are very strongly discriminated between each other, which means there's when there's summer, when there's autumn, when there's winter, when there's spring. But there are also parts of the world where you almost cannot distinguish between summer and winter, when there's, let's say, constantly warm, or even when the winter comes, it's still quite warm. It's very pleasant outside. So we can consider, imagine the cosmos, right? It is said that the universe is almost like an egg shape, right? So on the top planetary systems and on the bottom planetary systems, you can't really tell between, in analogy wise, between the summer and winter, but only in the middle planetary systems, the Bhur-Loka planetary systems, there you can very strongly discriminate between the 4 ages, between Satya, Dvapara, Treta, and Kali. So they're only predominantly present on the middle planetary systems, which don't have that much pleasure and that much pain, right? There's something between. Because on the celestial planetary systems, there's always good. There's always nice weather. Everyone is kind. Everyone is nice. Everyone is good looking. Everyone can do many beautiful things. There's a lot of opulence, pleasure, this and that. The life is so good that, it's difficult not to be chilled and relaxed and happy. On the lower planetary systems, the sort of a consciousness is there is no God, and materially very advanced, very sort of a lot of also pleasure, but completely separated from God consciousness, just pure atheism or pure demoniac culture. But on the middle planetary systems, these 4 ages, Satya, Dvapara, Treta, and Kali, are basically manifestations of predominant consciousness of those individual souls in that particular era. So you can actually even create now in the age of Kali, you can create Satya Yuga. How? By creating highly elevated individuals, which by their action, by their consciousness, and by the qualities they possess, they can rekindle the consciousness of Satya, which means, purely God conscious or spiritually conscious or spiritually elevated. So basically people like us are creating the ethos of the particular yuga. Does it make sense? So
yeah.
in a simplified way, in the middle planetary systems, there are 4 ages. Higher and lower, not so much felt.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
That was a tough one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry to put that on you straight
No,
after.
it's good. It's good that
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Anyone else want to raise their hands or just unmute and ask?
On the same line, I have, continuing from this question, because it's interesting to note that it may be on the whole in the celestial system as well. But does that mean in those, if there are planets, if there's a kind of, species like sorry, Prabhuji.
It was such a nice chapter, this one. Such interaction between Shuka. There's so much glorification. Oh, Krishna, you guys going into all these creation parts, Krishna.
So if there's a planet like, say, for example, pseudo Earth, where there are all these, let's take the top one first, where there is all smooth, everybody is conscious enough. So, and ages are also like, say, people are living 500 or 1,000 years as per what we understand of a year. And does that mean everything is all right? And, there at some point, of course, there would be some kind of Mahabharata there as well, because there would be always those elements, one or two there, who would create. Is that what we mean, Prabhuji?
Simplify the question, please.
So the question is, if on those edges of Bhumandal, which you mentioned, where there is, not clear distinction between the 4 yugas, is there still chance of transition from one kind of an era to another because of some elements being in the social kind, or who may create that? That's the question. Is there still, like, say for example, in on earth, as we saw, there was Satyug and Dwapar and Tritya, and then these were transitioned, as we could see, because of the whatever injustices happened, and then they could transition, or whatever corruption of the consciousness happened, and then they transitioned over a period of time. Does that mean in those lokas, those realms, would it there be also dew? And if there are planets like Earth, would it be due there as well?
This is a very technical question. I have no idea.
I think what Prabhu is getting at, okay, is that does Kali in essence affect the upper planetary systems as well as obviously
First of all, there's one very interesting thing. We learn how to fly in the sky like birds, in airplanes. We learn how to swim in deep oceans like fishes in our submarines. And we ask all these celestial planetary questions. How is it in the edge of Bhumandala, and on the Tapa Loka and Loka Loka, and this Loka, that Loka? But I'm asking you, have we learned how to walk on the planet like humans? Our consciousness may be there in different planetary systems, but do we act like human beings?